What if I told you you could book an hour-long call with your ideal prospect, customer, or client? Well, there is. It's through podcasting. Now, this may not be how you envision podcasting. Maybe you're thinking about creating content and sharing it with an audience and growing and having a bunch of downloads. And that's certainly a part of it. But today I sit down with Tomás Fonseca, who shares exactly the way you should be looking at podcasting. Now, Tomas is the founder of Icons of Real Estate, and he has helped over 70 investors and real estate professionals create and grow their own real estate podcasts. And he shares why the focus on podcasting isn't necessarily about downloads, but it's about having the right interviews with the ideal guests. If you want to learn how to grow your business leveraging podcasting, you have to check out today's conversation right here on Multifamily Insights. You probably got interested in real estate for the cash flow, the tax advantages, the equity appreciation, and the long-term wealth creation, not for the 2 a.m. emergency maintenance calls. But let's face it, maintenance can be the biggest headache when it comes to building up your real estate portfolio. And that's why I want to tell you about a new property management software called Hemlane. See, Hemlane is more than your typical software. It's really like having a property management support system. First, Hemlane provides 24/7 repair coordination. They have a network of vetted maintenance technicians and professionals in your area to handle repair and maintenance your property may need. Second, Hemlane helps you advertise your listings and even connects you to licensed agents to help find and place tenants. And third, Hemlane is ranked #1 by Gartner with an average of 4.8 star reviews on repair coordination. Learn how Hemlane can help you manage your properties with 100% transparency and control without the administrative work. And as a Multifamily Insights listener, you will receive 25% off for 2 months when you sign up. Just go to hemlane.com, that's HEMLANE.com, and use Multifamily Podcast 25 as the promo code. Again, that's hemlane.com, or just click the link in the show notes. Now, as the co-founder of Icons of Real Estate, the #1 real estate podcast network in the world, Tomás Fonseca has produced over 65 shows, all designed to help professionals grow their influence and close more deals. Now, he's excited to talk about everything there is from the world of podcasting. Let's welcome to the show, Tomás Fonseca.
Oh, John, and great pronunciation, by the way. You're in the top 10 of people that said my name on podcast.
Hey, man, I appreciate that, and I will take all of that. I really do appreciate it, man. Obviously, pronunciation is always something that's important and challenging at the same time. So with that said, man, I went over your bio at a very, very high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes to give us a little bit more on your background?
Yeah, sure. So as you can tell by my name, I'm not your next door neighbor. Kind of as a natural globetrotter, I've been going around all around the globe. I've lived in 6 different countries. I'm currently based out of Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. And it was up until, I would say, 5 years ago that I had my first connection with real estate through a marketing agency. That they wanted someone to take care of their podcast. And they asked me like, "Hey, Tomas, like, what's your experience in real estate?" And I said, 0. And, "Oh, okay, what's your experience in podcasts?" And I said, 0. And I was like, I mean, you look like a great guy. You're hired." So I kind of grabbed the wheels of this agency podcast and kind of decided to use my charisma to take it to the next level. So we were using the podcast to grow this agency that was Ardor SEO that we used to basically build and optimize websites. So SEO is obviously search engine optimization. We were using that to generate all sorts of leads. We had plenty of multifamily clients as well. And then up until more recently, 2 or 3 years, we've decided to jump from the ship of SEO to the ship of podcasting, because we're using podcasting to grow our business, right? So like, why don't we teach people to do the same for their business and just adapt our framework to whatever they want to accomplish, right? And that's where we started the Icons of Real Estate. We're positioned as the #1 real estate podcast network. It's not just a claim. We checked. There are not a lot of real estate podcast networks out there, so it's not hard to be number one. But we're producing right now 72 podcasts, all about the real estate industry, being that residential, commercial, multifamily, syndication, coaching, recruiting, and covering all the aspects of real estate. And yeah, I'm super happy to come here today, John, to see like how our podcast framework can also be applied to investors and to the multifamily folks on making connections with to raise more capital.
Yeah, Tomas, I love what you said, man. You talked about one, starting with this marketing agency, having no real estate experience, no podcasting experience, yet they still liked you enough to hire you. And there you are, jumping in and realizing, okay, let me figure out how to help this and use some of the skills I do have to learn this space and grow. You mentioned you were with Arter SEO starting out and kind of working there, focused on the search engine optimization, and over time realized, hey, we really think there's something in this podcasting space. This is what we're doing to grow kind of our audience. Why don't we take this same thing and apply it to other investors? And that's what you're doing now for other real estate investors, with your network being the number one podcast network for real estate investors in the world and producing over 72 shows. You obviously have a lot of experience and knowledge in that space. Can you just take us back to kind of the SEO land, right? Because I know the landscape has changed. Google algorithms changed, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago or so. And I knew that threw a lot of investors for a loop and a lot of different changes there. Can you talk to us about just the power of SEO, but also just the challenges that have emerged in more recent years?
Yeah. So as you know or may not, and you will find out right now, Google changes the algorithm every now and then. So I believe it is every 3 months that they basically do a presentation on what was changed or not. And any SEO expert, well, needs to be on that webinar, because it can be the difference between your website ranking number one or your website ranking number 35, right? So the challenges is on keeping up with that algorithm to understand what is right and what is not. Now, they don't tell you the full length of the algorithm. They might tell you like what they perceive that it is the right thing. They don't tell you between the lines. They don't tell you what it might harm you. They don't tell you the secrets of what, this is gonna, if you do this, like you're gonna be on the first page. Like they don't tell you that. So it's a lot of A/B testing, and SEO. It is there's a term which is like black SEO, which is basically kind of a collection of skill of measures that you would do that are not so they're a little bit frowned upon, but
A little less ethical.
everything at less ethical, but everything SEO is technically not ethical in the way that we're trying to trick Google, right? So one thing, because Google just wants you to be yourself. Google wants to be yourself. It wants you to create unique content. It doesn't want you to be a copycat. It wants to provide you with the correct information and reliable information. And that's it. That's all Google wants, right? But now with the SEO, we're trying to. It's not enough just to be genuine and just to be reliable and just to be correct, right? Then that's where the SEO comes in, on making sure that everything that you're doing in your heart is being read by more people, right? So it is a very challenging marketing perspective in the way that it is very long term. Okay, so it's pretty much the longest term that you would see in your business in terms of marketing efforts is SEO, right? SEM, like you do an ad, you open an ad, you have a lead tomorrow, right? Social media, like who knows, with a good giveaway, you get people coming in, you have results on the first week. Like with SEO, building up a new website, you're really only getting organic traffic like after months of work and months of like good amount of work. So that was one of the reasons that we decided to jump into something a little bit more accessible to people money wise, because SEO ain't cheap, but also in terms of having short term results as well, right? So SEO only has long term. Podcast is something that has short, medium, and long. Um, and managing expectations for a website that you're investing in, $5,000 a month, and then you know 3 months down the line, results haven't come in, which is normal. It's something, oh, like I put some money here, where are the leads, right? And sometimes it's, that meme when you're like, there's a guy digging a gold mine, and then he
Yeah.
gives up and he comes back and then the other finds the gold. Like that's SEO. And that's a lot of people that they invest a lot of money in SEO and they give up right before they'll find that gold mine, right? We managed to take websites that were having 40 organic visitors to having 5,000 visitors, right? But it's not easy, right? It's not easy at all. But that's SEO, and one of the maybe kind of opportunities that you have is that SEO is not easy. It's not easy for anyone, right? So like if you do it in the proper way with the right supports, like you're patient about it, like you will get results.
Yeah, Tomas, what I heard you say was, there are pros and cons with SEO. The pro is, it's long term. It's obviously once you set it up, it's organic, it's not paid. So that's great. Con is it's long term. You're not going to see instant
Yeah.
results. It could take 3 to 4 months, 6 months. It can be longer. And that's if you're making great content. If it's not the
Yeah.
kind of content and, viewers are looking for or readers are looking for, or the algorithm just doesn't like it, you may not see any traction. So I can imagine that became hard to justify. And if you have less patient clients, maybe they want to see results faster, and shifting to, something like podcasting was maybe a better fit because you have more short term or medium term and long term implications where you can track that and you can see the results a little more quickly than you could with the SEO. So let's talk more about podcasting. I've been podcasting for years. Obviously, you guys have been podcasting for a few years now as well. As you made that pivot, what was it for you that made podcasting an ideal fit?
So it's about the idea of attention and coming up with the years, and even more now than back in 2021 when we started this. It was actually mid COVID when a bunch of people started podcasting as well. But attention right now, 2025, it's one of the most expensive commodities that one can have. I've seen the study that the human attention span is smaller than a clownfish. Now, a clownfish, for the people that don't know what a clownfish is Nemo. Nemo is known by being distracted and dumb. He's adorable, but he's dumb. Our attention span is smaller than goldfish, than clownfish. So it's really hard to have someone attention, right? Right now, John, me and you, we're here. I'm not doing anything else. Like I'm here talking with you. You have 100% of my attention, and the same with you. Like this is rare right now because even when on social media, and you notice like people see they're watching a Netflix series and then they're on their phone at the same time, and then they're playing a game on their computer all simultaneously. Like how can you expect to grab someone's attention? So the podcast was a way that we can be creating content, which would obviously enrich our brand, and at the same time we have someone sit down paying 100% of their attention to us. And this might serve as not as it's still a numbers game, but it's not a big numbers game that you can. I mean, I can cold call 300 people in a day. I cannot record 300 episodes in a day. I think I don't know if there's a Guinness World Record for that, but it's definitely less than that. You can obviously record less episodes, but the results that you have of trying to cold call someone, LinkedIn outreach someone, please don't do that. A cold email that will end up in spam. The results that you have with actually intentional, thoughtful connections through podcast are always going to win, right? So that's where we started podcasting. We started actually with I don't want to say the selfish reason, but it's just a good reason. We're all entrepreneurs here, but it was the reason was to grow our company. So we would invite people to the podcast that could speak obviously on the industry that we're on, but kind of our real intention was to have them there so we can create a relationship. So it was kind of like a building a bridge that will never be there, right? And that's what propelled us to grow so fast, John. Everything, every single account that we got in through our agency, they came through the podcast. And once we see that, wow, like this is really working out for us, like let's not share this with anyone. Once we see that this could be applied to not just us, but actually to our clients' businesses as well, like that's where we decided to like pivot to podcast. And I was like, hey, let me help you produce your podcast, and let me show you how it's going to help you raise more capital. How it's going to help you sell more houses, so on and so forth. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Tomas, I love what you said, right? You mentioned that, hey, there's a lot of value in SEO, but as you looked at what you guys were doing, podcasting is one of the vehicles you utilize to get in front of the right audience, to build connections. And you said that all of your clients came from the podcast, which I think is incredible, right? Because you're obviously doing a lot of other things, like folks are using, I'm sure, social media and SEO and websites and all that kind of stuff. But you're saying the folks who actually came because you had that one-on-one attention, when you're sitting down doing an interview, you've got that person for 20, 30, 40 minutes, whatever that time frame is, and you're having a one-on-one dialogue, which is so hard to replicate. You're not going to be able to get that kind of time cold calling people. Even if you could, you're not going to cold call that many people. You're not going to, be able to get that kind of attention on anything else where you have their undivided attention. Typically, they're going to be, multitasking and doing something else. So the podcasting is a great way to build that relationship. I think the thing that really stands out, though, is you're talking about focusing on the guest. I think when most people listen to folks talk about podcasting, they're envisioning building this massive audience, right? Getting 1 million downloads or 10,000 downloads a month or whatever it is. I'm not hearing you say that. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of the strategy you utilize to help your podcast network grow their business, utilizing podcasts, not necessarily growing an audience?
Yeah, and I love that you touched that, because there is basically the point that gets everyone distracted, that people think that, oh, I'm going to have a podcast. I'm going to be, Joe Rogan's nephew.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the next Joe Rogan, and we're going to have millions of views. I'm going to be invited to the Golden Globes and interview, whatever. That's probably not going to happen. All right, let's just be serious. That's probably not going to happen. Even if you're a medium tier famous podcast, that doesn't pay that much. Well, like you really have to be like top tier for you to actually making a living of just having the podcast, and that's it. And you have sponsorships and they pay you, and you're a celebrity. What we do is we use the podcast as a business growth tool, right? So what we prefer is, instead of having it's like you, John, like what would you prefer? To have a podcast that has 20,000 streams every single week, and generates to you $56 of business on that one shirt that you sold on Etsy, or a podcast that has 500 views every week with your like-minded customer or investor, and generates to you $15 million a year. I think it's a very easy choice, right? So we focus more on the business that is actually generated from the podcast, inside with all the vanity metrics of views, comments, likes, and shit. Like we refer like, oh, how is this actually helped your business? And we have people come to us that they worry about the vanity metrics, and it's okay. Of course, it is better if you do have more likes. It's not like we say, oh, it's better to have less views. No, if you have more views, great. But then if you're missing the point of helping you grow your business, um, content and viewership is something that you cannot control. You may feel like, Johnny, you may feel like, oh, it's a great podcast. Tomas is saying like a lot of good things here. Like this is going to blow up. And it doesn't. And then another podcast that you thought it was boring actually blew up, right? So you don't control the audience. You don't control how much you get. And I like to work. I'm a little bit stoic in that, but I like to work with what I can control. And what I can control is that funnel of relationships that I can work with the guests, right? Now, speaking more into, like raising capital, is literally like I have a project, right? I have a multifamily project. I need to raise 30 million in the next 12 months. Of course, you're going to be hitting your network, your newsletter. You might be doing some cold calling if you feel like to. What you can do is like getting in front of those investors that they've been on your list for quite some time, but they never really answer your calls. They don't reply to your emails. But it's because you're not providing anything of value to them. Once you provide value to someone, they'll start opening their arms, right? It's just, no, you get the chance to be on my podcast. I'm going to create promotional materials for you. I'm going to share a newsletter with you. And then you're just giving, giving, giving. People will eventually be more vulnerable to you. They'll listen more to you. So that's where we see more business happening, John, is actually in the background of the podcast through the guest relationships than on the content. Like I can speak to like how can a podcast have more views and all of that. But the real Mardi Gras here is through the guest relationships. That's where the money is.
Yeah, I love you talking about that, right? The guest relationships is where the money is. Certainly when you grow the audience and grow the downloads, but really you can have a successful podcast even if very few people listen to it. And I think that's hard for people to understand, but what you're getting at is really the opportunity to get in front of the right guests, building relationships with those guests where it ultimately results in business. Let's talk about that more, right? Because you've got over 70 podcasts that you help other real estate investors. Some are real estate agents, some are syndicators in the commercial real estate space. I'm sure some do other things. Walk us through kind of your process. Like, what's the process on identifying the content for the show, identifying the type of guests for the show? Just walk us through kind of what it looks like behind the scenes to work with the Icons Network.
Yeah. So first of all, like we need to know what is someone's goals, right? That's actually like one of the things that causes podcasts to collapse. People might think it's commitment, right? Like, oh, I'm not committed to this. Like, as much as commitment is an important factor, you can watch a 15-minute motivational video on YouTube, and that will help a little bit on your commitment, right?
And by commitment, I think what you're getting at too is like people just assume they don't have time, right? It just becomes something
Yeah,
that
and
gets
then yeah,
deprioritized because it's like,
I didn't want to get to I didn't want to get to time management.
yeah,
But for sure, the commitment is like, oh, I didn't have time to record. I didn't have time to edit. I forgot to edit. This is not working out for me, whatever. What I think it causes most concern is actually people, sometimes they start a podcast just because they say, oh, I want a podcast, because they like to hear themselves speak. And as much as that is okay, if they're doing that for fun and do that for business, that's a big mistake. Because in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, you're looking back and then you say, oh, what have I accomplished with this? I don't even know if my podcast is successful because I didn't line up objectives. So the first thing that we focus on building with our podcast hosts is their vision, right? What is the vision for your business, and how and the podcast is going to fit into that. It's not going to be the opposite. Okay. So the podcast is going to be a part of their business growth. So once we found their goals, we go into a little discovery discussion understanding is what type of guests are we having. Usually the guests we mimic to what is their ideal either business partner or referral partner or customer, right? And then we dive into the content, because the content, it will depend on the audience, right? Sometimes for example, in real estate, for example, even in multifamily, you can be talking to investors or to syndicators, right? And those are two different, obviously, two different audiences. And the way that, and you need to know who your audience is, so you know what to talk about. So we cover that as well, and then we talk about the launching strategy. So you should always launch 3 episodes instead of one. We make a little bit of a soft launch with the week before, with all the promotional materials. And one very important thing, we take care of coaching, right? So it's not everyone that can just run off the bat and just record a podcast for the first time, and they're amazing, right? So we do have a coaching program that we take them through on how to be the best host, how to be a good guest as well. Because if you find out how to be a good guest, and that's a hit for everyone listening. If you find out to be a good guest, then being a good host is actually easier, because you may notice that I'm talking a little bit more than John right now. And John obviously has to have all of the skills of active listening, and you notice that he comments always on my questions before following up to the other. But being a guest, like, I need to be speaking all the time. I know I'll shut up in a bit, but it's like I need to be speaking all the time. I need to share my genius. And being the host, you just have to be kind of almost as a facilitator, right? Actually, it's exactly that. You're a facilitator of John is being a facilitator of what I have to share today, right? So yeah, that's a little bit of what we cover on the podcast, and we have our challenges, but we everything goes through the same process.
I love it, man. I'm going to replay that because I think this is really, really insightful. First of all, you said in order to have a successful podcast, you have to know your why. Why are you starting a podcast? What do you want to come out of this? You have to make sure that that vision aligns with the podcast. And this may feel like elementary, but I assure you, so many people, I would almost argue more than 50% of the people that launch a podcast don't clearly connect the podcast to their stated vision or their mission. And when I launched my first show, I did not have that clarity. I started the podcast because I had a couple of questions I wanted to answer, and I was having a hard time getting them answered. Once I got them answered, I didn't really know where to take the show. And that's why we've kind of morphed and pivoted a little bit over the years. But it started as a show to help you find the best places to invest, because everything that I was reading, talking to mentors, books, podcasts, it never got into the things that were relevant in my markets. It gave me the stuff that worked in the Southeast or on the West Coast, but not in Chicago, not so much in the Midwest. So I wanted to learn how to do that. And then once I kind of got that answer, I was able to pivot. But those early episodes are really, really poignant on how to find the best markets and sub-markets. So that point of that vision, I think, is really, really clear. The other thing you talked about is after you kind of have that vision, you want to identify who's your target audience, right? Are there key partners that you want, key clients you want, referral partners? Lock in on who you want to talk to and bring on as guests. And then you talked about the launch strategy and recognize that, hey, this may be a place where you need help, especially if you're not comfortable as a host. If you don't know how to be a great host, you don't know how to set it up, you don't know how to really launch a show. This is where working with a group like yours could come in very handy, because you're going to help guide them through that process on how to be a good guest, how to be a good host. And you're right. Typically, as a host, you're listening more, answering questions, and it is a little bit easier than trying to go on there and be the guest yourself. I actually want to go there though, because for some of our listeners, they may be saying, hey, that sounds great, but my client or my ideal avatar, the person I want to talk to, I don't know if they're a good guest or if they're even willing to come on a podcast as a guest. I know many passive investors, they kind of want to be in the shadows, right? They don't necessarily want to be on podcasts and have their stuff out there. If you are trying to target either an LP investor or someone who is maybe less likely to be a podcast guest, What are your thoughts or your strategies there?
Nice. That's a little bit of a challenge there, John. So we found that even with some people that we target within our podcast, that they don't see quite the benefit for them to join the podcast, right? So coming to the podcast, of course, we do have our own agenda of the number one agenda is obviously getting the relationship started. And then maybe the second agenda is having content that we can share with our audience, right? Now, for the guest, their only agenda is when they get started in is promotion, indoctrination. Oh, I get to be part of Target Market Insights. Um, so it needs to you need to really think about like what is this limited partners want, because obviously if they want to be in the shadows, inviting to a podcast might not be the best case scenario, right? Like one, I'm just thinking, right, brainstorming here, right? Even on and I think this would actually be a really cool idea. Those National Geographic documentaries that sometimes it's actually Discovery Channel that they do about they go into prisons and they interview criminals, or they go to drug lords and they interview them, and they put them in a silhouette, and I was like with a strange voice. Like, I'm not saying like to go as hard as that, and I was just getting creative here. Is like one of the things that I like, is just to brainstorm, round up some of your limited partners and say like, hey, I'm doing a kind of an anonymous podcast. They're coming in as anonymous guests. Nobody know who you'll be. I'll be your host. People will know me. Then I'll ask you about your experience. And then I don't this is just some idea that I had kind of to circle around what you had, right? You still get to make that connection. And instead of the benefit for this person, for this guest, for this limited partner, instead of being promotion, I think it will be more like as an experience, right? More of like you can sign the NDA, you can make it all official, and I think that maybe that's a good idea for you to do, John.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's something that's definitely interesting, right? So I think so first of all, I love a lot of what you said. I think that the two challenges that people run into is kind of one, the anonymity that some folks want. So it could be a challenge there. The other challenge though is, you mentioned like coaching. I know for some people, the guests that they're seeking may not have a lot of experience. So then it comes down to, well, if these folks maybe don't have a lot of experience, can they be great guests? Just before we switch over, I'm curious to get your feedback or thoughts there.
Yeah, so we've had that also situation very often, So besides our 72 podcasts, I think it's two podcasts that were produced. It might be three, it might be 73. I haven't checked. My email. We have our own flagship podcast, Icons Real Estate Podcast. John was already a guest on it, and we have more than 600 episodes. Okay, we tried to get the cream of the crop there. But it was often that we had sometimes people that, well, they didn't have that much to share, right? Of course, that is not so beneficial for the overall content of the podcast. But if you really, really, really are targeting these people, even if you're targeting like just an investor that he did one deal, right? Because you're a coach and you want to get novice investors, right? Like where are they coming to the show to? Like, they're coming to the show not to give a lot of experience on investing, right? So you just need to pivot on the way that you plan the episode. Like make it more light, make it less, maybe a little bit less about education, more about stories, and then kind of the education part is where you come in, right? So one of the things that we did as well with the podcast that we're producing, we would invite novice real estate agents and we'll play out, and we practice this with the host. We'll play out a little bit of a live coaching session. So every single episode, we would go through the story, and then obviously the agent, in that sense, he was an agent. You can mirror that to being an investor or anything else. Didn't have much to share in terms of his knowledge, so it was kind of like a head to head, like live coaching them. So like that's something that you could do if you're working mainly with unexperienced investors or unexperienced syndicators. You can still invite them on and give them some coaching and make that an episode. You know, simple as that.
I love it, man, because I think you're to your point, right? There are ways to do this, even if you have folks who may not necessarily have a lot of knowledge to share. Maybe that makes it great where it's either live coaching or Q&A, and it's more interactive from that standpoint, but you can still give great value to the audience that's listening while building that relationship with the guest. So love that point, Tomas, and I think it's really helpful for those folks who may be on the fence about launching a podcast. For folks that want to learn more, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, so they can go to iconsurealestate.com. You know that we have our SEO background, so it'll be pretty easy to find us. I'm one of those guys that actually checks their email. So if you email me at tomas@iconsurealestate.com, I should be able to see it. Tomas is Tomas, and that should be the best way to get through us. All right. We do have a little giveaway thing that John can put in the description. But it's basically that I wrote kind of 5 frameworks that we use for the successes of our podcasts. You can get this at iconsurealestate.com/podcast-frameworks. But if John can put that in the link, you don't have to type all of this in the search bar. And yeah, we're welcome to any inquiry about getting started with your podcast. One thing that I decided to change between also the SEO perspective was that I wanted to make something accessible. All right. So you might be surprised about how cheap our prices are. Please don't laugh in my face, because I'll feel offended and increase the price just to you. But we want to have everything accessible. We're not part of the new wave of overcharging everything, and you know, we're trying to keep us genuine and our souls clean. So we're on the accessibility phase. We have 72. We plan to have 100 very soon, and who knows, 1,000. Right.
Love
So
it.
we welcome anyone to get in touch with.
So we will make sure we link to all of that in the show notes, Icons Real Estate, as well as your email address and that free download guide that you mentioned as well. So make sure we link to that, all of that in our show notes. Right now, we're going to transition to our round of insights. When you think you found a great deal, asking the right questions could be the difference in finding a stud or a dud. Listen, we've put together a new guide to help you out. It's called 7 Questions You Must Ask Before Investing in Apartments. Now, in this guide, you're going to learn how to uncover red flags, quickly identify underwriting risk, vet sponsors and team members, and confirm key assumptions. Now, this is a guide that's going to help you be a better investor, whether you're an active investor or you're a passive investor looking to partner with other operators. Asking better questions is the key to identifying great opportunities. So download this free guide. Go to our website, casmoncapital.com/7 questions. That's the number 7 questions. And you can access this free guide today. To make it easy on you, though, we've put a link in our show notes. So you go to the show notes, you can click that link and access the guide right now. This guide's going to help you make better investment choices, asking the right questions to build your portfolio. So be sure to download it today. All right, Tomas, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Failure or apparent failure. I would say my overall career has brought to me, because you study in high school, you go to college, and I was feeling like kind of the progress that this was taking was not the correct one. and I was still that I was gonna get stuck. And I eventually was. I was pretty lucky on started working for a startup before I even graduated, because I did some good stuff here and there. But then I was let go, and then when all my friends had already jobs, I was looking for an opportunity, and I had to go work for a call center for a year. I worked in a call center for a year, and then weekends I worked in a restaurant. While all my friends were working already in marketing, it's like, oh, look at this marketing. I was doing customer support for video games. Obviously not the proudest thing that I can say, but it was something that taught me a lot about communication that then I brought into put together with my entrepreneurship. And after, I think it was like 2 years of doing call centers, I know that I just needed my chance. I know that I just needed my chance at marketing and growth, and I was going to take it. And that's where I started out with Ardor SEO, and then Icons Real Estate, then the same thing. And this is where we met, John. Actually, it's pretty funny how we met, because I was just an email guy to you, So I first started as my role in the company was to book our clients on podcasts, our SEO clients on podcasts. So that was my role. And then I had, John was one of the podcasts that we were kind of pitching guests to, right? From that, then my charisma and my entrepreneurship kind of flourished. And right now, I co-founded real estate with the SEO of Ardor SEO, and right now I'm basically running the company with them. So it all started with that call center experience.
I love it, man. Give me a digital or mobile technology that you would recommend for our listeners.
I would give you Eddy AI. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with it?
No.
So Eddy AI, HEDY, then AI. Let me just quickly check if it's Eddy AI. The website I think is eddy.bot. So this is basically a meeting coach. Okay, I'm actually not using it right now, but it's something that you can have listening to your calls. This can be coaching calls. This can be webinars. This can be classes, client calls, investor pitches, anything. You can have it listening, and it provides you with live feedback of what you can say, what you shouldn't say, what you shouldn't say, some opportunities for you to take on as well. And then at the end of it, you can also ask questions. Say, hey, how do you think that go? What do you think I should better? Blah blah. Now, that end part, you can already do that with a lot of AIs, right? So you can do that with ChatGPT, and you can put the transcript, and they'll share their feedback on Zoom as well. You have, for everyone has Zoom Premium, you have the meeting coach. But this one, the important thing about this one is the live coaching. So you can have it. So you need to have it on your phone, and I can't be wearing headphones because it needs to listen to the recording. But it provides you with live coaching. And then imagine like I'm drawing a blank, and I was like, oh, where was I? Help me. And there's like, oh, Tomas, you were saying this, and that, right? So this is a perfect tool that I've been using to help with my. I'm not using it today, but I've been testing it out to help with my podcast hosting, podcast casting as well.
Eddy AI, we'll make sure links to that. Sounds like a great tool.
Yeah.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
I would say Sapiens by Yuval. I never know the other two names. But it's Yuval Sapiens. It's the only Sapiens book out there. It's not particularly a business book, as you can imagine, but it tells a lot of the story of made us who we are. And I think for everyone, there was even someone on a podcast that asked me to kind of present 5 books. And kind of the first book that I would recommend is really The Sapiens, because like before you try to find out who are you, and before you're trying to find out what's your company goals, what are your goals, and what do you want to do with your life, I think it's fair to say that it will be beneficial for you to understand like how did you get here. So the book is about the story of humankind, and I think it's beautifully told between the scientific facts to the open interpretation as well. That also leaves open interpretation to you, right? You might have a different opinion than Yuval, so the book leaves to that. And I was pretty impressed by that book, by everything that I learned from it, that I recommend to anyone.
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
A daily habit. I just got a dog, so my daily habits all went through the bin. I would say that my daily habit is, I wouldn't say every day, but is playing football. So that goes for playing any team sport. By football, I mean the real football, okay, Americans? But it's something that there's a lot of stress that you build through the workday. It's just normal, only if you're working, in Disney, you wouldn't have stress. And I bet there's some stress there as well. You need something to relieve your stress. And, instead of hitting your girlfriend or hitting your dog, just go play football and hit your friends, So that's what I do. And that's what I recommend for anyone. Like, I think playing team sports is really important, not just for the workout, but for the whole camaraderie. And that helps me kind of be sane at the desk when I have to.
Give me your number one insight for launching a podcast to grow your business.
I just want to go back to, I'll just give you 2, because I want to go back to the vision. The vision is really important. Get the vision straight. Don't start without the vision. And then the other one is really just do it. Okay. You don't need to, you can, with the quality of phones that we have right now, it's not like podcasting 15 years ago that you had to have the whole setup, the whole studio. Right now, any smartphone, and I bet you have the most recent smartphone out there, records 4K. So you put an iPhone, you put a 3P, and that's it. You can start recording. All right. So it's very easy to get started. And if you're wondering about it, just, all right, it will be hard. And that's why I make the living of being hard, because I can help you. But don't let this sit in next week's goals. Might as well start.
Tomas, you're out in Vietnam now. I know you travel the world, so I'll let you pick the location, but give us your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Oh yeah, you are trying to prepare me for this question. I think I would ask like for a week just to review everything that I've been through. I kind of want to give a local shout out. Not that's going to do anything for your Vietnamese listeners, but we have a local restaurant here that is called Bep Vo, which is kind of a neighborhood favorite. And it's like when you go there, you always see familiar faces there, and the food is absolutely amazing. Obviously, I love Vietnamese cuisine, and they make it to perfection. So I want to give a shout out to that for all your Vietnamese investors and syndicators out there that might know Bep Vo.
Hey, well, you know what? They may not be there now, but the next time they take that trip, they can come back to this episode, bookmark it, write it down, and check it out. Tomas, really enjoyed our conversation today. You talked about starting off helping real estate investors with SEO, transitioning to podcasting, mainly because you were finding that this was the way you were growing your business and you wanted to help other real estate, not just investors, but professionals from agents and others, use podcasting to grow. And I loved how you talked about that framework, right? First of all, have a clear vision of what you're looking for. Then you want to make sure you identify who you're talking to, who's that ideal guest, that ideal target audience. From there, you want to make sure you have a strong launch strategy, and then making sure that you stay consistent with that launch strategy and make sure that you pay that off. So lots of great tips and tools to help our listeners understand how to grow. And if you want to learn more, check out the website. We'll put that into the show notes, as well as your email address and that free guide that you mentioned as well. So all that's in the show notes. Just click there and check out that content. Tomas, I want to thank you again for being a great guest and coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.